Welcome to Codepedia. In this video, we learn a basic JWT authentication in .NET Core. Before writing any code, let's understand the workflow. Here you can see we have a client and we have an API server, and we have a user control which has two action methods. The first is authenticate and the next is list. In the authenticate action method, we pass username and password, and it's check whether the user is valid or not. If the user is valid, then it will generate JWT token and it will give in the response. Now we have access token in a response. We can save it somewhere. And next we call the list API and we pass the access token. And at the backend, it will check whether the token is valid or not, it is expired or not. If the token is valid, then in response we get the data, else we get the message as unauthorized. Let's head to the coding part. From Visual Studio, we create a new project and I'm selecting ASP.NET Core Web Application from the template. Click on Next button. We'll give some project name as basic JWT Auth. Click on Create button. Here I will select .NET Core 5 version. As we are working on API, so we'll select this template ASP.NET Core Web API and click on Create. So this is a default project. As you can see here, we have some default controller. So let's remove this. Let's also remove this class. To implement JWT authentication, we need to install some NuGet packages, and those are Microsoft ASP.NET Core Authentication JWT Barrier, and the second is system.identitymodel.token.jwt. If you have selected ASP.NET Core 5 version, then this will automatically get installed. So only the second one we have to install. For that we go to Tools, NuGet Package Manager. As you can see here, this is already installed. So next we go to Browse and type that system.identitymodel and we install this. So now our packages are installed. Next we go to the app setting.json file. Here I will add a section as JWT. Under it we will create three keys. The first one is key, and the value of this would be a secret key. Next we add issuer. For this I am setting the URL of my blog. Next we have audience. So now we have done with the NuGet packages installation and app setting configuration. Next we move to a startup class file, and here under the configure services we add some services. The first one is we need to add authentication. So for that we write services dot add authentication. Options. Dot default authenticate schema equal to JWT barrier default dot. We need to import some namespace. Let's hover it. Next we add for default challenge scheme, same as JWT barrier. And now we configure some JWT barrier specific values here. For that we will write add barrier token. In that, first we get the key value from our app setting file. For that we will write variable as key equal to, as we need the byte, so we will write encoding. We need to import the namespace here, dot get bytes. And now from app setting we get the key value. So for that we will check JWT of key. So we will write configuration JWT colon key. So this will give us the key value from our app setting.json file. Next we write o.save token equal to true. We'll set this as true. And now we write the token validation parameter which we need equal to new. So here we set the value for validate issuer signing key equal to true. Next we write the valid issuer equal to configuration. From there we get the value of, and we copy from here and we'll paste here. Same we do for the valid audience equal to configuration, and then we write JWT and copy the value from and paste it here. And now we set issuer signing key equal to new symmetric secure key, and here we pass our key value which we have in a variable of key. So now we are done with the configuration. Next we need to add middleware here. For that we write app.use authentication. Note this should be always above the authorization. So now we are done with the middleware and we are done with the services. Now we create a folder and it will have our model or entity, we can say. Let's create a new class as user. It has two fields, for example name and password. Same we do for the password. Now we create a new class file for token. In this we create two fields as token and refresh token. Next we create a folder as repository. Let's add a new folder and name it as repository. In this repository folder we create a new interface and name this as JWT manager repository. Make it public, add token here, and then a method name as authenticate, and it will send the user. We need to import the namespace here. Now we implement this interface. So for that we create a new class. Let's copy this name and we'll add a new class here and let's implement it. To make this video simple, I'm not going to use the database for the user authentication. So let's create a dictionary here which will authenticate for the user. For that we will create a dictionary of string. In that we pass some dummy values, for example user1 and the password as password1. Let's create some more. So now we have user record and we'll check from here. So first we check whether the user is valid or not. So we'll check with this user dictionary. If user records dot any x dot key equal to user dot name and x dot value equal to user dot password. it is not, then we'll return null. If the user is valid, then we generate token. So now we inject the I configuration from dependency injection. And now here we write the code to generate token. For that, first we create a variable as token handler, and this will be equal to new JWT security token handler. We need to import namespace here. Next we have our key from our appsetting.file. For that we will create a token key variable. We need to import the system.text namespace here, utf.getByte, and from configuration we get the value of our key. Let's copy from app setting. Now we need a token descriptor. So for that we will create a token descriptor equal to new. We need to import the namespace here. Now we create a variable as subject equal to new of claim identity, and we pass here the array of claim new. We need to add the namespace here again, and here we set the claims. So in our case we will add a username. So new claim equal to claim type.name as username user.name. You can add multiple claims as you want. Now we set the expire of this token. So for that we will use parameter expire equal to datetime dot utc now dot add. As you want a token to be expired in 5 minutes, so we will add 5, and now this token got expired after 5 minutes. Next we set signing credential equal to new signing credential, and here we pass the token key, and next we set the algorithm dot SMA signature. Now we create a token. For that we'll create a variable as token equal to token handler dot create token. This will create a token and it will return a security class, and here we pass the token descriptor. And now in this token variable we get a token, but as we want to be in string, so for that we will create equal to token handler dot write to token, and here we pass a token. So this will return a serialized token in string. So now we have created the authenticate method. Let's register this service in our startup class. For that we go to the startup class, and at the end we can write services dot add singleton and the interface name as JWT manager repository. Let's add the namespace here. So now we have registered our services, and now these services will available in a dependency injection container, and from our constructor injection we can access this service. So let's create a controller first and give it a name as user controller. So this is our default user controller, and from dependency injection, by using constructor injection, we can access our services of JWT manager repository. So for that we will create a constructor here first, and then we'll inject that. Now we create two action method. The first one is authenticate, and that would be a post request, and the second is get request, which return a user list. So let's create a get request first. And now we return this user list. Next we create a post method for authentication. For that we'll create an iAction result. So public iAction result authenticate, and we'll pass parameter as user. Add the verb as HTTP post, and let's give a route name as authenticate. As we have injected our services here, so let's call the method here where token equal to JWT manager repository authenticate, and we'll pass our user data. If the token is null, then we'll return unauthorized. For that we'll add a condition here. If equal to null, then return unauthorized, else we return OK in response with a token variable. So now we have created two methods. The first is get request and the second is authenticate. So now to authorize the whole controller, we'll decorate it with authorized attribute. We need to add the namespace here also. So this will authorize at controller level. But as we want the authenticate API should be accessed by anyone, so we will make it anonymous. So now anyone can access this authenticate action method. And for get request, we need the access token. Let's add a route name here also as user list. So now we have two methods. The one is get request and the other is post request. This will authenticate the user and return token. And if the token is valid, then only user will be able to access the get method. So let's run this application. I will copy this URL and paste it into the Postman API/users/user list. Let's hit this with an access token. As you can see here, we get the unauthorized message. So we need to authenticate user. For that, we call the authenticate method. So let's click here, make it a post request and add authenticate. Now in body, we have to pass our username and password as password1. Let's hit this. Let's see, we get the access token here. Now we'll copy this token and paste it over here in the get request. Under the authorized tab, we'll select barrier token and we'll add the token here. Let's click the send button. Okay, as I'm calling it from localhost, so I need to set valid issue as false. So for that, we'll stop it and go to the startup class, and under this we'll write validate issuer equal to false, and also for audience equal to false. So for local environment we're making it as false, but if you want production, then you have to make it as true. Also to expire the token after 5 minutes, so we need to add validate token lifetime equal to true, so that after 5 minutes our token get expire. Now let's run this, and now we can access this, and here we get the output. If you want the source code of this project, I have already written an article on my blog. I will share the link in my description, and so from here you can copy the code. I hope you like my video.